Equalization 1, 2, and 3. So here in Equalization 1, what we do is we start working on the drums. So if we jump ahead to about 20 seconds here, you can see I'm starting to add some EQ to the snare drum. Right here I'm trying to hear what I want to take out, so I lifted up the EQ and found what sounds I didn't like and then pulled away like we talked about before. So I kind of have some high aspects of my snare drum. I want to still have some meat to the snare drum too, so I don't want to kill out all of the low end, but pulling out some of the bottom here is helping me to get rid of the kick drum in there. Okay, and so you'll see that I go through and add, there's the overhead, and go through and add each of the drums. And then once I get to the kick, you know, right after the kick, it's like I need to work on the bass. And so the kick and the bass are a very important pair. And so you'll see that right after I start working on the kick, I jump over to the bass, and I leave the kick on so that I can work on both of those together. And you'll notice in this song, this is a constant battle with the kick and the bass, trying to get them to fit well and fit well in the mix and be happy together. And really in this mix, I'm working on that right up till the very end, and that's some of the final tweaks in the last couple of videos right before mixdown are adjusting what's happening with the bass and the kick drum. And so you can see here, I'm trying to demonstrate that we can see how where the kick drum's coming up, the bass drum's kind of coming, where the kick drum's coming up, the bass guitar is coming down, and vice versa. So they're kind of creating pockets for each other and not fighting and such. Okay, so let's jump ahead to Equalization 2. Okay, and in Equalization 2, we can jump to 8 seconds here and see that we start working on the guitars. Okay, and you'll notice that I have the bass soloed with the guitars. And part of that reason is right here. I'm pulling out some of the low end of the guitars to make sure it doesn't fight too much with the bass, because guitars have a tendency to do that. If you get your guitar sounding great and you got a lot of bass in your guitar, you could kind of cover up the bass guitar. And so that's part of what I'm doing is pulling some of that out on the guitar so that they fit together. Okay, and then after we work on the guitars for a while, we jump over to the hi-hat. So here I'm adding a plug-in for the hi-hat, for the EQ on the hi-hat. And I'm just trying to go minimal on this. I try to do this a lot. In this session, there was a lot of EQ work, so I couldn't do it as much as I'd like. But a lot of times I like to just use this one-band EQ to kind of just get a minimal EQ, and then basically I'm just pulling away. So instead of boosting the high end of something, if I can use a low shelf or a high pass filter with my one band EQ and accomplish it with that, then it's less detrimental to the mix, and in the end it's going to sound a lot better. A lot of a minimalist kind of perspective on it. Okay, so you can see I'm trying to get the balance there with the hi-hats and working on the levels while I'm working on the EQ. Okay, and then we'll jump ahead to 549. This is where we work on this acoustic guitar. Okay, and you'll notice that I'm going to pull out the low end and get find that high frequency spot where you just kind of cut through the mix. Like I said before, this is going to be kind of sitting in the background, so we want it to really cut through and be heard just as kind of a highlighting aspect of the mix. Okay, so now we'll go on to Equalization 3. Okay, and in Equalization 3 we start working on the strings here, 126. So I'm adding some EQ to these are the high strings. So the high strings most of the time follow the lead guitar, kind of doubling the lead guitar, which is a characteristic kind of Middle Eastern sort of aspect, which you can tell that's kind of part of the song here. So I want the strings to have a little bit more presence, so we're adding some high end there, kind of finding where they can not fight with the guitar but be heard. Okay, and then we jump ahead and work on the lead guitar. Okay, so I'm going to boost the lead guitar here, but I'm not going to boost it in the same spot where I boosted the strings. Okay? And then finally, we work on the lead vocals. Okay, and you'll notice that later on in the mix we actually adjust these a little bit more to fit with the session. But we want the lead vocals to sit around 1 or 2K to kind of have that presence in the mix. And that is our equalization 1, 2, and 3.